Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2. Okay, this game looks interesting. Let's look at similar games. So, according to Xbox, people who played Bannerlord 2 also played Crusader Kings, Iron Harvest, Civilization, and Kingdom Come Deliverance. So if anyone who has heard of Mount & Blade before, this actually makes sense. It really is all of those games. However, for new players, Bannerlord 2 can be hard to fully understand, because Bannerlord 2, especially on console, really is unlike nearly any game you can play. So at this point, you might be wondering, how can a game be a RTS, a 4X strategy game, and a role-playing choice game? And to be all those things, it must have a massive campaign, giant army battles, player combat, city management, character choices, and politics. Well, I can luckily say that it does have all of those things and so much more. But the real question is, just because the game has all these features, does more mean better? Is it as wide as an ocean but as deep as a puddle? Because while Bannerlord 2 might seem like it's merged all these completely different games together, does it pull it off for an enjoyable experience? And honestly, most importantly, does a game with so many different mechanics actually work on the console? Well, let's find out. So Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2, you start off in a fictional medieval world of Calradia, in a setting similar to the fall of Rome. The game starts off with a video explaining that the Calradian Empire that had once unified the region is currently in a civil war. There's also other unique factions looking to seize power. The game's world is massive, with snowy mountains to the north, deserts to the south, a steppe region to the east, and numerous forests and plains to the west. The different factions in each region have their own unique culture based from history. The different factions are more than just a reskin. You can see the difference of each faction in their city design and different types of unique units that they have. Like most RPGs, you start the game by creating a character with a backstory that gives you bonus stats. Trying to decide what stats you want is where you start to notice just how detailed and dense the game is. Your character has 18 different skill lines, and within each skill, you have to decide between multiple perks. All these different skills mean that while you have these skills like one-handed weapons, riding, and the bow, you can also level non-combat skills like trading, leadership, tactics, medicine, and engineering, to just name a few. It can honestly be a little overwhelming for a new player, but after some time playing, you start to see how every skill has a purpose. So once you finish making your character, you're given a brief tutorial where you need to save your siblings. This is an extremely short tutorial that shows you the absolute bare minimum of how to navigate the game, and I do stress the word navigate, because to actually play and understand all the mechanics of the game would take dozens of hours. And this is where the question of as wide as an ocean comes in, because Bannerlord 2 is like playing The Sims mixed with Total War in a medieval world. The game truly is a medieval sandbox where you can play the way you want to and create your own goals. Yes, the story campaign gives you the mission of assembling a banner. However, the game ultimately turns into either deciding to join a faction or make your own faction to conquer the world. But in saying that, the missions are not mandatory. What makes Bannerlord 2 have endless replayability is the massive extent of what you can do. When the game starts, you will usually begin by recruiting upgradable unique faction units or special companions. And think of these companions as your lieutenants. They can be upgraded just like your character, and since they have the same type of skill tree as you can make certain companions do skills you're lacking and even promote them to party positions. So for example, you may have one companion focused on medicine, so you and your troops can heal quicker after battle. You can also equip companions with your gear and have them complete certain missions on your behalf. You can also travel around the world completing missions for villages and nobles to gain reputation and money. You can complete in tournaments in towns. You can go around hunting bandits, raid villages, join a faction as a mercenary, and that's not even everything. If you want to try something different, you can start off the game by deciding to be a merchant, where you travel to the towns buying and selling different goods. From there, you can buy businesses in towns and even create NPC merchant caravans. You can even start blacksmithing and create and sell weapons for profit. There really is an ocean of content in this game, but what really makes the game stand out and the world feel alive is that while you're playing, the AI factions and nobles are also playing the game and making their own choices. And this is what I mean by Mount & Blade 2 is a game that most open world games want to be. Most open world games, you can lose your immersion once you realize that the world revolves around you. Because in some games, while you can go anywhere, it doesn't mean anything because nothing changes without the player's involvement. In Mount & Blade Bannerlord 2, the AI will be declaring wars, taking territories off each other and changing factions. They will do all of this without the player being involved at all. By having the world evolve without you, It makes the relationships you have with other NPCs feel a lot more important, and the relationships you have with other nobles in the game is important, because at some point when you decide to join or make your own faction, it is a lot easier to have allies supporting you than half them up against you, and this is where the Game of Thrones begins. The late game of Bannerlord II turns into giant army battles, castle sieges, politics, and empire and town management. So in Bannerlord II, villages, castles, and towns are all owned by a particular noble from a faction that owns it. By owning a town, you're able to gain the taxes, garrison units, and build buildings to help grow the town. When your faction conquers a new town, the nobles will vote to decide on who gets ownership. The whole voting system is through influence points. You can also use influence points to vote for internal policies, form armies, and try to steal land off other nobles. However, you want to make sure you don't spend all your points, because having influence to form armies is important, as it allows other nobles to join your army to increase your troop count during war. And this will help you take over towns, castles, and bigger factions. Now, because of these mechanics so far, this is why Bannerlord II on console is unlike any other experience, because it truly is a sandbox game. At any moment, you can decide to do whatever you want. So during most playthroughs, I found myself doing a mix of what the game had to offer. I would spend time hunting bandits, then move on to traveling to towns to compete in tournaments, and later on, when I joined a faction, I was given ownership of a town, establishing businesses and trade caravans. The ability to stop what you're doing at any time and completely change your goals is what makes the game unique. But the sandbox and the Game of Thrones politics aside, let's get down to the details. The good, the bad, the combat. So when it comes to combat, there are two major parts. There is the actual adventure aspect of your character fighting, and the strategy part of you commanding your units during the battle. Combat in the game is based on direction swings. You have shield bash, you can block, and you can swing your weapon to damage enemies. So because of the skill progression system, you start off with borderline unbearably slow weapon swing speed, and have a shaky crosshairs when using ranged weapons. However, once you level up higher, it gets a bit easier. Your success in combat revolves around you measuring distance, picking your angles, and blocking and shield bashing to stun the enemy. Bannerlord II has a range of weapons for multiple situations, so these include one-handed like the sword and axe, the shield, the two-handed weapons like the greatsword, polearms like spears, and the ranged weapons like throwing axes, javelins, bows, and crossbows. And just like the series name, you can also use your weapons when riding a mount. But at this point you might be wondering, how does combat translate to the controller? This is one of the biggest challenges of Bannerlord II. Combat can feel a little bit stiff, and at times it's a chaotic mess. It's a hard balancing act for any game, to sit between realism and enjoyment. As you start playing, you'll constantly have your weapon swings stop halfway because the enemies are within your swing distance, and you'll constantly get swarmed by enemies and you'll have trouble trying to block them with certain weapons. I honestly just found it easier to use a shield to help mitigate blocking attacks and for my overall survival against ranged enemies. But overall, it does get easier once you learn about all the different details. However, character combat is not what kept me coming back to the game. No, where the combat shines in Bannerlord II is its epic battles. So in Bannerlord II, Campaign Sandbox, you get to recruit, level and command units. The amount of renown you have and certain skill points will determine the size of the armies. In the actual battle, if the army size is too big, your rest of the troops will be as reserves and spawn once the current troops are taken out. So the battle locations in Bannerlord II's campaign are determined on where the fight is started. So this can be the plains, forests, mountains, or since the game has different seasons of the year, even in the snow. However, where battles really shine are in the castle sieges, where you'll have ladders, rams, and gates to either attack and defend. And visually, battles will often make you just sit back in awe, as you see the chaos of dozens of AI crashing into each other and volleys of arrows flying past. Seriously, look at this. It never gets old to see cavalry rush into a shield wall and see absolute chaos unfold. Speaking of the giant battles, the game has two settings of fidelity mode, based on trying to have the better textures and bigger battles, and performance mode based on a more stable performance. Back to the battles. The battles are where the RTS and strategy aspects of Bannerlord II shine. At the start of the battle, you can split up your troops and deploy them into different groups and formations, and during the battle, you can also slow down time to quickly bring up your order command tab to change tactics. This means You can give units different orders throughout the battle as you're running around the field. This really makes you feel like a commander amongst their troops. You are constantly re-evaluating the battle, deciding when to make commands or go in yourself to help your troops. Now for the controller, the formations and battle commands work because you can slow down time. However, at times it can feel difficult to place units properly and get the correct camera angle. The controls didn't feel intuitive, and this issue goes beyond just the battles, because one of the biggest challenges the game has is the game's virtual mouse to navigate the UI, and at times its painful inventory management system. And honestly, it doesn't get easier to use the UI, you just kind of get used to dealing with it. However, all of them are minor concerns for the experience you get. Overall, Bannerlord II is an experience unlike any other. It's an empire management, medieval combat, and political simulator all in one. It's a game where you can be a traveling merchant or a battlefield commander with hundreds of troops, where 1 minute you're buying a local bakery and the next you're storming a castle with ladders and battering rams. So while the Xbox version doesn't have the mods of the PC version or an easy to use UI, it is still a game that's almost unrivaled. So if you're looking for a true medieval sandbox where you get to decide your goals, the Mount & Blade Bannerlord II might be the game for you. Thank you for listening and please subscribe.